Okay, I'll introduce myself just for a minute. My name is Avi Landa. I've been working in various forms of psychology for over 20 years now. And I do counseling and I do work in a school. But I'm here in my capacity as Director of Education for Amudim. Amudim.org. It's an amazing resource. It's an amazing organization for the Jewish community when it comes to mental health, both in terms of helping people in crisis, helping people deal with various mental health challenges, but also helping people educate, understand, prevent, have better knowledge and awareness of things so that we can stay healthy and remain healthy. And that's what I'm here to talk to you about today. I'm going to try to leave some time at the end for some questions. So if you have any questions throughout, you can feel free to raise your hand. If I can stop, I will. Otherwise, keep in mind your questions. We'll have some time at the end to answer them. I want to begin today with a question of my own to you. What does it mean to be happy? How would you define happiness? There are all sorts of things you could think of in terms of state of mind, in terms of what you might do. How would you define happiness? Yeah. So joyfulness is like a synonym, yeah. Being able to do things that you like to do, being fortunate to be able to do that.
Feeling good about yourself.
So feeling good about yourself, self-esteem, that's definitely an important one. Having friends, that's a big one. We're going to elaborate on that, yeah, in the back. Okay, so recognizing from a very chemical perspective, the neurotransmitter dopamine, which has a tremendous effect on our brain in terms of our mood, that's well in balance and that's in good proportion. And there are various things we do or don't do that help to sustain that. So really we're talking kind of the step before that, what we do to help promote that. Yeah, anybody else? Okay, so I'm here to propose that it has nothing to do with how much money we have and what we buy, and it has everything to do with three specific criteria. Now, to be extra clear, I am not saying that somebody who's very affluent and rich cannot be happy. That's crazy. We know that's not true. You can have many very affluent people who are very happy. But you can also have many people who are at average wealth and can be very happy. In fact, if you have a low level, if you're in the poverty level, it can be very difficult to be happy. And in fact, psychologists have found that there is a correlation between happiness and money up until you're around the average of your community. But once you're at that average, beyond that, having more stuff, more money does not correlate with happiness. You could have a lot more and be happy or sad. You could have a lot less and be average and be happy or sad. So what are the components that determine our happiness? Anybody think they know? One was mentioned already, I'll call that out. Friends or relationships in general. Having a good relationship with our family members and with our friends is one of the three critical components to having happiness. Because when we speak about happiness, we don't mean thrill, riding a roller coaster. We mean contentment. What we say in Hebrew, menuchat hanefesh, feeling satisfied, feeling content. That's the most good feeling a person can have in this world, that everything's running, everything's flowing. So good relationships is going to be a key component of that. What do you think are the other two? Anybody have an idea? Yeah. Okay, so self-esteem, I would include that in relationships with like kind of your relationship with yourself, although it could connect to one of the other ones. Yeah. So we said finances can have an impact up to, let's say, being average, but it won't necessarily impact that beyond. Yeah. Self-confidence, self-esteem, similar to what was said before. One big one is having meaning in life. Meaning in life can come from your job. Your job is to help people. You find tremendous meaning in that. It can come from religion. We're blessed to be Jewish people, part of the Jewish nation. We can find tremendous meaning in that. We can connect to that. So there's various ways a person can find meaning in life. That's a huge one. What's the third one? What do you think? It's connected to what you were saying. And the answer is something that the richest man in the world would give up all his money for in a second. health. If he had something that he wasn't able to cure with the best doctors, and there was something he could give up all his money for to cure, he would in a second. So that means these three components, healthy relationships, a social network, being able to feel like I have health in my life and meaning in my life, those three are the critical components for real, true, deep inner happiness, inner peace and contentment in life. I'll share with you one idea when it comes to relationships and when it comes to meaning in life, especially religion, and then we'll move on to health and specifically mental health. I have a question. Say you have a guy who's dating a girl, thinking about marrying her, and it's the fourth or fifth date, and he's thinking, you know what, I want to get a gift for this girl. Now, the boys and girls might have some different ideas about what that should be, but I'll give you two choices. Choice number one, a bouquet of a dozen red roses. Anybody here know how much that can cost at a real fancy flower shop? It could cost a lot of money, way more than even couple $100 sometimes, okay? Or I can get her an ice cold kiwi strawberry Snapple. Some people love that flavor, some people hate that flavor. Okay, so those are your two options. Now on the surface you'd say, of course the roses, right? That's so much more of a meaningful, but let me give you more context to the story. You see, on the first date, they were having some light conversation. And they were talking about, like, what's your favorite food? What's your favorite drink? And the girl mentioned in a second. It was a 3-second part of the conversation. Mine's kiwi strawberry Snapple. Oh, interesting. Okay. But then 4 dates later, she opens up, or he opens for her, the front door to the car. And she's about to sit down. And on that seat, she sees either the bouquet of roses. Wow, that's so nice. That's so sweet. Or the ice-cold kiwi strawberry Snapple. Which one do you think is going to make more of an impression on her now? Okay, that's what you're going to say? For sure the Snapple, because what it reflects is that you were paying attention to this person. Even the minute details of what they like, what they don't like, you committed it to memory. It's a good tip for when you get older and you're dating. Pay attention to the details. It makes a huge difference in developing relationships. Even just with a friend. Are you really listening when they talk? Or are you just thinking of the next thing you want to say while they're talking? Paying attention to those details and listening is what connects people. It's the same thing when it comes to meaningfulness with religion. Sometimes people ask, why do we have tens of thousands of laws in Judaism? It's overwhelming, it's overburdening. Like, you could ask it as like, does God really care about every tiny one of these little details? And the answer is it's actually an opportunity that Hashem, God, is sharing with us even the little minute details of what he wants, what he doesn't want. It gives us even more and more opportunity to commit those details to memory and to act in accordance with them. It allows us to have an even more special relationship with him. It's an amazing idea. So that's one idea just when it comes to relationships, healthy relationships, and when it comes to meaningfulness in our life, pay attention to the details. Remember those details. But now I want to transition to health and mental health. Now, when it comes to our mental health and our self-care, being able to take care of ourselves, when it comes to mental health, there are different things we can do to maintain healthy mental health. There are psychology techniques that I'm going to share with you in a few minutes. But before we even get there, it has to be said that basic diet, sleep, and exercise is absolutely critical to healthy mental health. Because without any one of those three, you could have a psychologist actually see symptoms to diagnose you with a mental health disorder, even though it's really just lacking one of those three. If you're not getting enough sleep consistently at night, you're going to present with mental health disorder symptoms. It's important. Make sure you get that sleep. If you're not eating enough or not eating nutritious enough, your body starts to react and your mind is affected as well. So to exercise. Exercise has a huge impact in how we are able to feel and to think through things, our mental health state. It is huge. Even 15, 20 minutes of exercise a day can be a game changer for a person's mental health. So we got to remember sleep, diet, and exercise. Once we get past that, we can talk about some basic mental health strategies from a psychological perspective. So let's talk about some of those. One of those is a breathing technique, a breathing exercise. Now, what we want to understand is that we were all made up of two things, nature and nurture. Anybody know what the definition of those two are? How you define those? Yeah. Nature versus nurture. Yeah. I'll come back to you. You go ahead.
Nature is like how you were born, and nurture is how you were raised.
Okay, what were you going to say? Okay, so nature, how you were born, and nurture, how you're raised or your environment. In other words, nature, my genetics, what was given to me at birth and stays with me, my genetics, and nurture, what's happening around me. Now, we can't control our genetics. Maybe not completely, we'll see in a second. But nurture our environment and the decisions we make, the friends we choose to hang out with, recognizing maybe there's a group of friends I should stop hanging out with. Maybe I often feel bad about myself after hanging out with them. Or maybe I often make bad decisions when I hang out with them, impulsive decisions. Maybe I should try to limit it and hang out with other friends a little bit more. Maybe I should be careful with the decisions I make, unhealthy decisions, because those influence me. On the flip side, if I can hang out with positive people, if I can hang out with positive influences, if I can make positive decisions with my sleep, diet, and exercise and all the habits of my life, then it's going to have a tremendous positive influence on us. What's amazing is there's a brand new field of study called epigenetics. Anybody ever hear of that term before? Epigenetics is where when we repeat our habits over and over again, it could be positive, it could be negative, they actually end up having an influence on our genetics, which is an incredible idea. That means we can literally pass some of that new habit down to our children. It's a fascinating idea. So we're all made up of nature and nurture. The part that we can really control is nurture. That means we want to try to help keep ourselves in a good mentally healthy state. One of those examples is, how do we deal with anxiety? Can we keep ourselves calm when we have a worry? There are relaxation techniques that people use. They're very effective. One is a breathing exercise. What's the sound we make when we're frightened and all of a sudden we're scared or shocked or worried about something? Inhale. But yes, if it's very frightening, we might scream. Yes, that's fine. What's the sound we make when all of a sudden we're relieved and everything's okay? Exhale. Because there are two totally different nervous systems that are engaged when we inhale versus when we exhale. When we inhale versus when we exhale. When we inhale, it's actually the nervous system in charge of more focus and lack of calm. And when we exhale, it's actually much more the nervous system of relaxing, which is why we can hack the system with a breathing technique. You want to calm yourself down? Inhale for 4 seconds, but then exhale for 8. So it's, and then we can definitely try it together. We can definitely try it together. You don't have to. But one of the things that you want to do is kind of hold it for 7 seconds in between. I know that one. So it's called 4, 4, 7, 8. 4, 7, 8. So it's inhale for 4 seconds. You can do it with me. Hold it for 7. And then exhale for 8. If you do that 3 or 4 times in a row, it's the simplest technique that actually brings some level of calm onto you. It's literally understanding psychology and applying it to hack your emotional mood state. It's a very worthwhile thing. 4, 7, 8. Breathe in for 4 seconds, so it's a quick breathe in. Then you hold it for 7. And then it's a slow exhale. And you're actually engaging that nervous system of calm. Even just me doing it with you right now, it brought a little bit of calm to me. It really works. It's an amazing idea. There are other relaxation techniques as well. But what I want to transition into for you now is a technique called mindfulness. And I want to introduce this technique with a concept. Every anxiety, almost every single anxiety and worry we have in life is rooted in the past or the future, not in the present. Think about it. I'm either worried about I made a mistake in the past, I did the wrong thing, or I'm worried about, oh no, what's going to happen in the future? I'm going to get in trouble. That person's going to get upset. I'm going to fail. I'm not going to do well. Something's going to go wrong. I'm going to get sick. It's all future. In the present, there's no worry. There's no anxiety. It actually is a concept that we could, once again, use to hack our mood system to make ourselves calm using psychology. It's an amazing idea. Somehow to live in the present, that's what we're going to discuss. Let's put it this way. Imagine if a person lost all their memories. They had no memory of the past, and therefore no thoughts about the future. They're just literally like, okay, I'm here right now. There's nothing to be worried about. Nothing. Now, they could be in physical pain right now. That affects you right here, right now, in the present. But mental pain, anxiety, worry, it doesn't affect a person when you're only focused on the present. And that's why, if we could root ourselves in the present, even just for a minute, it can bring calmness to us. I'll give you a little bit of a really deep idea. God himself is above time. There's no past, future. That means for God, everything is present. It's all present, which means it's all perfectly peaceful. There's no worries. It's an idea. Okay? So we want to try to root ourselves in the present, and I'm going to give you a technique as to how to do that. Question, yeah.
What about if you're like in the middle of a test and you don't know it, you're really worried, isn't that?
Let me ask you a question. If you end up finding out later that you got the right answer and you passed the test, you have anything to worry about now? No. If you know that that's what's going to happen, do you have anything to worry about now? But if you would get it right, so the point is it's a future worry. It's when it gets graded and I get my mark back, I'm going to fail. Now, what if I told you it's just a practice, no one's going to look at the grade? You wouldn't be worried about it. But if it's going to count, and your parents are going to see, and your teacher's going to see, and they're going to come to you, and what's going on, it's going to reflect on your report card. It's all future stuff. You understand what I'm saying? Because of what will happen because of this now in the future. Think about it. Okay. Yeah. When you're in the future, that's your present, and you're worrying about the past. That's what I said. It's all about the past and the future, not the present. But it's a good question. So here's a way to practice this. How do we ground ourselves in the present? We notice things in our surroundings that we've never noticed before that purposely gets us to mentally focus and be grounded in the present. So let me start, okay? Let me give you an example. I want you all to look around this room. You've been here many more times than I, obviously. Look around the room and notice something you've never noticed before. I'll go first. I'll tell you what I said earlier, but this is not going to be true for me because I noticed it last time. There's a little dirt spot on the ledge leading up to the windows over there. I'll notice something else. There's a little, I'm sorry to point out all the little things, but there's a little piece of paint or whatever hanging down over there. Okay, so I'm noticing things I never noticed before. Yeah. Shh. What? The wood molding on top of the pillar. Somebody mentioned that last time. You never noticed that until this moment? Then you got to speak to me afterwards. Yeah. Right, but it's got to be something you never noticed until this second. Yeah. Okay. What else? Yeah. Okay, that little chip. Yeah. Anything else? Yeah. The outline of the brown trim around it. Okay. The exit sign. Okay. You. There's a tissue box up there. Yeah. Okay. A gap. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. What time it is? That's a smart one. That's a smart one. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So there's many, many things. There are many little tiny details around us all the time. And by design, we don't notice these things. Because if while I was talking to you, I was noticing all these things, I wouldn't be able to talk to you. I would just be looking all around all the time. But by design, we're not distracted by all these things. But we can choose once or twice a day when we're not in the middle of a conversation, when we're not in the middle of a class and we need to pay attention, to start focusing on the little details all around us, even insignificant details. It actually can calm us down because we're focusing on things in our present environment and we stop thinking about the past and stop thinking about the future, even just for a minute, even just for a few seconds. It once again can have a calming effect on a person, which is an important thing for when we get stressed. Like was mentioned before, everyone has hard points in their day, in their week. You have to be able to have tools in your toolbox to take care of yourself, for self-care, to calm yourself down. Yeah. Oh, we're going back. I'll take more questions about that idea afterwards. But yes, yeah, there can be, by the way, we can find exceptions. For the most part, that's how it is. It exists in the past and the future. Okay? So now, think about this. This works even better when we're outdoors. Outdoors, you can notice distant tree lines. You can notice the grass. Now, noticing the grass, just this big green area. But have you ever noticed each individual blade of grass? Probably not. You do? Okay, good. Right? You notice one blade is a little shorter than the one next to it or has little ridges in it. All of these things that you're purposely noticing in nature around ourselves can ground you in the present as a mindfulness technique to help relax and calm ourselves somewhat, to be able to think more clearly and be more healthy when it comes to mental health. So I want to leave, what time are we ending? Okay. So I want to leave a little bit of time for questions, but I wanted to share with you these ideas, these techniques. Because when we think about ourselves in terms of nature and nurture, in terms of what makes us who we are, both in terms of what we are born with, our genetics, but also what decisions we make in terms of our mental state. Are we generally calm or stressed? And by the way, if you try some of these things and it's still really difficult for you to calm down, you got to talk to someone. You have a guidance department, you have a principal, you have teachers, you have rabbis, you have parents. Talk to someone so that you can speak it out. One of the core elements of therapy is that you are talking out what's bothering you to another person who's really listening. Just speaking it out can be very helpful. So you got to make sure that you do that if some of these other techniques are not working well enough for you with any particular struggle that you're going through, any particular worry or feeling that you have. That's really important. So when we take care of course, diet, sleep, and exercise, and we take care of the nurture, who we're hanging out with and what we do and what emotional states we allow ourselves to stay in. It's normal to be a little worried, a little sad when we first hear difficult news. But if it stays for hours and days, we need to use these tools or speak to people to calm ourselves down and to become more in a mentally healthy state. When we do that, it has a tremendous effect, not only on our current state, but it can even have an effect on our genetics, on our nature, on who we are as people, which is a very powerful idea. So that's what I wanted to share with you today. I wanted to leave a few minutes for questions. Okay, anybody have any questions on that, or even anything relating to mental health in general? I'm happy to answer. Yeah.
So at the beginning you talked about happiness. You find yourself happy.
I do find myself happy. It's a great question. But I also find myself at times needing to use some of these tools to calm myself down, to be able to make sure that I stay in a good, mentally healthy state. If I find that, let's say I haven't exercised for a while, I'll realize I gotta do it today, not just for my physical health, for my mental health, right? And I'm hearing a lot of other people's, besides for the stresses of my own life, I'm hearing a lot of other people's stresses. So I have to make sure that I have that strength to hear it and not get bogged down by it. Does that make sense? So yeah, it's a good question, and I appreciate the question. What about you? Yeah? All the time?
Yeah. Not all the time.
Okay. So you want to use these tools and these techniques as a way to expand that. Does that make sense? Yeah. So that's a really, really important question. The question was, how does someone help themselves get out of depression? Let's talk about depression for a second. Depression, when we use it in a psychological way, means a person who cannot function. They're so sad, they're in bed all day. They can't come to school. That's real clinical depression, diagnosable depression. And in that case, almost always, you need another person or group of people to help that person. It's going to be almost impossible, not impossible, but almost impossible for that person to just help themselves in that state. Because part of being in that clinical, diagnosable level of depression is that it's hard for you to do anything positive. It's hard for you to go out and exercise and to eat healthy and to get a good night's sleep. It's hard for you to do mindfulness. It's hard for you to do anything. So it's really important to make sure that if you or someone you're friendly with that you see is really suffering at a high level like that, you immediately tell someone so that we can get them the help that they need. But we also use the term depressed to mean like someone who's sad. They're just down. But they're coming to school, they're going to class, they're generally paying attention, but they clearly have a sadness. So first of all, again, if it's a friend of ours, just saying, hey, I notice you're a little bit sad. If you want to talk about anything, I'm here to listen. You don't need to say anything. Just listening has a tremendous impact on the person who's sad because they have someone to speak it out with, like we said before. But if you want to help yourself, you're finding yourself a little bit sad. So some of the techniques that we use today, what's making you sad? Is it because there's something you're really worried about and it's just getting you down and out? Well, then again, we can use a breathing exercise to calm ourselves down. We can use mindfulness, pay attention to the little details around us for 30 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes, and it calms us down a little bit. Otherwise, we have to think about, well, what are the other reasons why somebody might be sad? And so how can they help themselves? We have to think about, we mentioned this already, but who are we hanging out with? Sometimes there's a certain group of friends that we tend to hang out with them and end up afterwards just feeling sad, not feeling great about ourselves. I should think about that. There's some common denominator there that's causing that. Maybe I should find a little bit of a different group of friends to hang out with more often. So does that answer your question? Does that answer your question? Yeah. Yeah. There are medications that can be given usually to those diagnosable level type of mental health conditions. It would be with the advice of a psychologist and then potentially also a psychiatrist if medicine is going to be the way to go. And medicines can be very helpful, very often in conjunction with therapy, but it can be a game changer. It can be very helpful. Absolutely. Absolutely. And then there are, like we said, all the people, your support group around you. And then there are organizations, like I said at the beginning, like Amudim and like other organizations who can really help you, connect you with the right people, give you the advice that you need and the guidance that you need. So keep that in mind. Okay, so we're going to end on that point. It's a real privilege to speak with you. Thank you so much for your time. Have a great day.